This is the Chuwi HiPad. So it is a Helio X27 tablet. It's the second one I've reviewed now with this chipset, but this one's paired up with only 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage. It does have a lot of good things going for it, but its ultimate weakness is definitely that chipset, which isn't particularly powerful, and you do get a little bit of lag through the UI. Depending on the version that you order, you get a EU charger here, of course, because I have the EU version that was sent to me here down in New Zealand. You get a rather small Type-C to USB cable, and of course the tablet, which does come with a pre-applied screen protector, and normally the factory does a pretty good job, much better than me, so you don't have any dust underneath it. Now that charger is rated to only 5 volts 2 amps, so it's not one of those quick charge ones. Unfortunately, it does not support MediaTek's Pump Express. Now, one of the good things about this tablet here is it runs stock Android, so there's no custom launcher here, and it doesn't come with any pre-installed bloatware. It does have a few Google apps on here, but overall you are covered. You've got a file manager, and as you can see, we've also got FM radio. The HiPad runs Android 8. It's got a security patch level from June the 5th this year, so it is a little bit dated there. You would have noticed the rather large bezels that this has, so it's not going to win any awards for slim bezels. The screen is, however, one of the best things about this tablet. It is a fully laminated panel. It has a resolution of 1920 by 1200, so that's 16 by 10 aspect ratio, and the gamma, one of the first actually, checks out to be exactly 2.2. Brightness tops out at a very decent 434 lux, which is great. So this is a bright screen, a lot brighter than your typical budget Chinese tablet, and the fact that it's fully laminated is really good. It supports 10 touch points. Touch input is okay, however, sometimes there is a little bit of lag with it, as you'll see later on too in this review when I go through it. The tablet has an alloy rear body that has a matte paint job to it that is very prone to fingerprints, so you'll be cleaning this one a lot. It doesn't have any flex or creaks in the actual frame of the outside of it when it connects up to the screen at the front, so that is really good. And you'll see we've got these little red accents in here to tell us that this is aimed at gamers, a gaming tablet. Now it does make it look a little bit different. There's no lights on this, so there's nothing special about this, and right here you'll find a single mono speaker, which isn't particularly good, and I will give you a sample of it later in the review. The tablet weighs 489 grams and is 8.8 millimeters thick, which is not bad considering I've used much heavier tablets. The only ports you'll find is a 3.5mm headphone jack with mic support. The audio out of this is okay. I've certainly heard better, and I have also heard worse. There's a tiny little bit of static, very light hiss through it, and then we've got a Type-C port which is for charging and data, and then a slot there for micro SD card support. Up to 128 GB I've tested, which is working fine. On the right side you will find a plastic volume up and down button, power on button, and just below the volume button there's a tiny little hole there. That's a reset button, but I don't actually think you're probably going to need it. The buttons themselves, they are made out of plastic. They feel okay, they don't actually rattle around, so overall the build quality of the tablet is perfectly fine. Up the top you'll find a 5-megapixel webcam. There is no ambient light sensor on this particular model either, and to be honest I didn't really expect it at its $140-45 price tag. On the rear there is another 5-megapixel camera. This one however has autofocus. So you will notice that we also do have rather large icons on here, and that's because they've gone with 320 dpi for the scaling of Android 8. ROM performance is one of the issues with this particular tablet, that it is not actually very fast and fluid. That you will notice that you do see often quite a bit of stutter and slowdown in the UI. You can probably pick that up, but this is not running in a full 60 frames per second, that it struggles. And if you do happen to have something in RAM, because we've only got 3 GB here, you will start to see even more slowdown and stutter. Just launching a few things here, and if I bring up Google Play Store, it will load in pretty quick. The wireless performance is not bad on this. You're just noticing a definite bit of lag there in the UI that is ever present, and especially coming from my Mi Pad 4 with its Snapdragon 660, you notice here that the Helio, even though it is the X27, is really struggling to even display this at only 1200p. This also popped up here, which is an app that was removed by Google Play's Protect, which is like an antivirus system here, and it doesn't like this app that's called Font Manager. Now, I don't remember installing anything like this, and I'm pretty certain this actually came on the ROM here. It may be not harmless at all, may be perfectly fine, but it's still not good to see this. Okay, so it's not all bad news. You can actually get some very decent battery life out of this. So it has a 7,000 milliamp hour battery. Now, charge time is quite slow. It's going to take you well over 5 hours. It was around about 5 hours and 28 minutes to fully charge it. But look at this, screen on time. You're able to get at least 8 hours. If you're going to be gaming, then it's going to be a little bit lower than that. It's probably going to be about 5 to 6. But this was mixed use, so I was gaming a little. I was also doing some YouTube streaming, ebooks, things like that. I was able to get 8 hours and 34 minutes, which is not bad at all. When you take a look at the Antutu score, so it gets just over 100,000. Now the MediaTek Helio X20 can actually get similar kind of scores. So that even though this one's clocked higher, the maximum turbo is 2.6, and the GPU is clocked up a little bit higher as well, 850 megahertz. It's not really performing as good as you would expect. And as I said before, I think it's the memory that could actually be the problem. It's just a little too slow and we don't have enough of it. So the 32 gigabytes of storage that is on board here is eMMC 4.5.1 spec, and these speeds are okay for this type of drive. It's not actually too bad. So the sequential read and the sequential write, this is not going to be bottlenecking this system. It's the chipset that's the bottleneck. Now for Project Treble support, it doesn't support seamless updates, and I expected this considering the price of this tablet. Nor does it support Widevine Security Level 1. So what this means is Security Level 3 is that you're going to be stuck on just standard definition with Netflix. Now the wireless range and speeds, they check out. I haven't had any problems connecting up to my wireless networks here down in New Zealand, and the range seems to be okay. It's certainly not the best that I have seen, and the speed and the throughput you're getting is going to be around about 120 megabits per second max. We just have that single rear firing speaker on here, and yes, you guessed right that it's not amazing. The loudness is okay, but at 100% volume, it will distort a little bit, and here is a sample of it. Now a sample from the front-facing webcam. So it's 5 megapixels. The quality, as you can see, is average. It's got a lot of grain to it. The audio is okay. It's passable, and it is actually usable for applications, video chat apps like Skype, and that is the main thing here. But your mobile phone will do a much better job than both the front and rear 5 megapixel cameras on the HiPad. So if you're still watching, you've already gathered that I've mentioned a few times now that it's not really a huge performer, this tablet. However, it is good at things like PDF files. It's not going to be amazingly fast, but we do have that nice screen, which is by far the best thing about this particular tablet here, the HiPad. So it's got the fully laminated screen, 1200p, good brightness, and the sharpness for reading and looking at PDF files is good. So I can see a lot of people that if you can get it for a decent price, possibly using it for this. And ebooks, yes, they do look decent. I'll give you a sample now of the text. So this is what it looks like when you zoom in really close here. You're not going to make out pixels at normal reading distance. Video streaming services such as Amazon Prime, they're working perfectly fine. YouTube works great as well. And as mentioned, Netflix, that's only going to be in standard definition. Now taking a look at gaming, so this one here is Shadow Fight 3, which is not the most demanding game, and you can see it is running pretty good. There's no real issue with this one. The frame rate that it is producing here is definitely playable. It's not the smoothest I have seen this game running, of course, but it is better than the Helio X20, which on some tablets I tested at a high resolution too, or 2560 by 1600, would be very slow and laggy. At least here, you're getting a playable frame rate. But let's check out a more demanding game, PUBG. So as you can see, it runs the game, but it is quite choppy and laggy. I'm finding it quite difficult to actually aim and move around. The touch input here seems to have a few problems. And someone's just about to kill me, I think. So I'll just show you, try and aim here, see if I can get this bot. Okay, so I managed to knock him down, but it is quite frustrating. The game, the performance here just isn't enough, if you ask me. It's just a little bit too slow, and it's just that touch input as well is making this quite frustrating. I find I have to actually press harder right here to get that joystick to register. And you see when you zoom into that this is this is very choppy. This is not, I don't think this is even 30 frames per second, probably not. It is on the low setting as well, so the lowest possible settings, struggling right here, the Mali T880, which is of course the GPU that is part of that Helio X27. So there we go, that's the Chuwi HiPad, a budget tablet that is selling for around about 145, 149 US at the time of this video here. So it has a really nice screen on it for what it is. Okay, yes, we've got large bezels, but it's fully laminated. The brightness is well over 400 lux, which is really good to see because most of them don't even reach 300 lux. They normally top out about 220. So if you need a brighter screen, then possibly one to go for. The build quality is good here. No problems with that, but what is the biggest issue for me with this tablet, which means I can't recommend it at all, really, is the performance. It's just so laggy. A lot of the times, it's just so painful to use because you're getting this constant stuttering. Now, maybe I have a faulty unit, but I don't think so. It's very common with the Helio chipsets that I find that they just aren't as smooth as you'd think they would be with 10 cores. The real weakness is probably that GPU. And really, actually, probably the RAM. The RAM, 3 gigabytes of RAM. If this had 4, it would perform a little bit better. However, I think the RAM speeds that this has are just a little bit too slow, and that is bottlenecking the chipset there. And the chipset itself isn't really that fast. So if you want the best performance, you want a super smooth tablet that's going to load things up great and be able to game well, this definitely is not the one to get. So thank you so much for watching this shorter review here from me, and I do hope to see you back in the channel. Please check out my review just up here of another Android tablet. This one here comes recommended. It's the Mi Pad 4, which has a Snapdragon 660 and performs much better. That one overall is very smooth. Thanks a lot for watching this video.